We all know From is full of mysteries, but the biggest answer might have been sitting in a children's book since season 1. We've always wondered who the Cromenockle really is. Most people think it's Tabitha or Julie, but if you look at the clues, they point to someone else entirely. In this video, I'm going to show you why Jade is the real hero of the story, and how a simple scene in the diner storage room proves he's the one who will finally get everyone home. We all know how important Ethan's favorite book is, and how the events in the Cromenockle seem to mirror what's happening in Fromville. On my rewatch, I picked up on a really interesting analogy that I believe proves Jade is the Cromenockle. Let's go back to season 1 when Tabitha and Ethan go to the storage room for the first time. Ethan says,
"It's like the cavern of the lonely dragon. When the Cromenockle was lost in the rainbow sky, she found a cavern where the lonely dragon lived. And it was full of stuff that nobody wanted. But for the lonely dragon, all the stuff is treasure. And one of the big piles of stuff, there was the map of the rainbow sky. The lonely dragon gave it to the Cromenockle and then she wasn't lost anymore. So maybe we'll find a map in here."
But Tabitha and Ethan don't find any map. Instead, Tabitha finds the bracelet she made for Jim. Fast forward to the same episode. We see Jade obsessively drawing the symbol while at the diner. Tian Chen notices the symbol and goes to the storage room, where she picks up Christopher's journal and gives it to Jade. Tian Chen and her family were Chinese immigrants, and China is deeply associated with dragons. The lonely dragon fits Tian Chen perfectly. She lost her husband, and we see her grieving every night, emphasizing how lonely she is. Tian Chen is also a Chinese name often interpreted as heavenly morning or sky dawn. The combination suggests new beginnings, celestial elements, and a connection to nature. Tian commonly translates to heaven, sky, or celestial. A dragon fits perfectly in this category. It's a celestial creature and the pinnacle of the mythological food chain. If you're not convinced that Tian Chen is the lonely dragon, let me show you another part of the series.
What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm just admiring this piece of lonely dragon's treasure.
It's pretty.
The storage room also perfectly resembles the cave full of trash that nobody wanted. Tabitha goes there because she wants to get rid of the items left behind by previous owners. What's the first thing you do when you move into a new home? You clean up the trash and throw it away. Tabitha's actions perfectly reflect the trash referenced in the Cromenockle story. The storage room at the diner becomes the town's graveyard for discarded items. But for Tian Chen, it's more than just trash, exactly like in the story. Kenny even says that his mother knows the storage room inside out, showing how much Tian Chen values the items that everyone else sees as junk. Later, when Christy and Jade are preparing her for burial, we see Sarah bringing a blue dress, saying it was Tian Chen's favorite. Sarah mentions that when the diner wasn't busy, she and Tian Chen would go into the storage room and try things on. This perfectly shows how Tian Chen didn't see those objects as trash, but as something to cherish. Combining all of this, I believe there's enough evidence to suggest that Tian Chen is the lonely dragon. So her giving Christopher's journal perfectly mirrors Ethan's quote from the book. The lonely dragon giving the Cromenockle the map of the rainbow sky. When I presented this theory on Reddit, the biggest counter-argument I got was that Victor is the lonely dragon. And I can see why so many people believe that. He was alone for a long time, and we see him collecting personal items from the dead around town. But here's the difference between Victor and Tian Chen. Victor collects those items because the boy in white told him that if he couldn't bury all the bodies, he should at least take one personal item and bury that instead. He also keeps these items to help him when the time comes. To me, that's not trash. Ethan says the cave was full of stuff that nobody wanted. But Victor did want those things. He took them for a reason, believing they would help him in the future. Meanwhile, everything that ends up in the storage room consists of items people no longer use. For me, that's a huge difference between the two. Also, Victor doesn't really fit the dragon category. He only fits the lonely part. If you can present evidence that connects him to the dragon title, I'm more than open to hearing it. But for now, Tian Chen is the strongest candidate for that role, even more than Kenny. Kenny rejected his Chinese roots. When they arrived in America, he didn't want anything to do with his parents' culture. That's why he uses the name Kenny instead of his birth name, Fu Hen. Tian Chen, on the other hand, still speaks Chinese. So, we've determined that Tian Chen is the lonely dragon. Now let's look at the symbol. After the ending of Season 3, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that the symbol is the key to everything.
But someone who loved them told them a story. The story gave them hope. And when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that make the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
The faraway tree.
The symbols represent the hope the children poured into a tree. There are also theories that this might be the same tree that was in the road, but that's a topic for another video. What we can say for sure is that the symbol represents the key to going home. If they find the symbol, they find the children. And if they free the children, they can return home. While researching this, I found something that everyone seems to have missed about the journal and the symbols. Look closely at this screenshot. Do you notice anything strange? I didn't at first, but after studying it more carefully, I realized that the symbol is different every time. Like many of you, I didn't pay much attention to this at first, because Jade is a software developer, not an artist, so it would make sense for his drawings not to be perfect replicas. But if we compare those two drawings, we can see clear differences. Differences that are too significant to be simple mistakes. Noticing this inconsistency, I took it even further and analyzed Christopher's journal as well. I found that the symbols there also vary from one drawing to another. The symbol represents the hope the children put into the roots that became the tree. And do you remember what Victor said about the trees in Season 1? He said they are moving. I believe this is very important, because if the trees are moving, then it would make sense for the symbol to change every time. If we take Ethan's quote from the book, that the journal represents the map of the rainbow sky, then this means the symbol itself is a map. Jade said that chaos theory is only chaos until you understand the pattern. We see the same thing with the symbol. It seems random at first, but once we discover the pattern behind it, it could start to make sense. And I believe that pattern is connected to the moving trees. Every symbol seems to follow 3 rules. Each one consists of 3 lines. Each line intersects at least twice, and they are always contained within a circle. Just like an X marks the spot, I believe these 3 lines represent coordinates. I haven't figured out exactly what they point to, but I have a strong suspicion that they are connected to the underground tunnels. Here's what Jeff Pinkner said about the symbol.
The tunnels underneath the town may help us understand what that symbol is that Jade has been searching.
Could this mean that the symbol is actually a map of the underground tunnels? This becomes even more interesting when we consider that the show's producers said that once we understand the true mythology behind the monsters, everything will start to make sense. We know that the monsters sleep in those tunnels. We've also seen drawings there connected to the sacrificial process and how the town's residents gain immortality. It also seems like all the items the monsters collect are stored in those tunnels, and I believe those items are more important than we initially thought. We even saw the monsters moving those items deeper into the tunnels after Victor and Tabitha discovered them. I don't think the monsters would go through that much effort to hide those things if they weren't important. Considering how extensive the tunnels are, we can assume they spread all across Fromville. This might explain why Tabitha digging a hole in the basement was such a big deal. It was so important that the man in yellow himself warned Jim about it and caused the house to collapse. Tabitha was supposed to die there, but the boy in white intervened directly by sending Victor to help her and guiding him through the tunnels. The fact that even Victor, who knows almost everything about that place, needed guidance suggests that the underground tunnels are far more complex than the forest. Just for comparison, we have the map Victor drew of the forest, and another one where we can see the lighthouse in the top right corner. I believe the purple arrows represent the faraway trees. Even with all this knowledge, Victor still can't navigate the tunnels on his own. But if the symbol is actually a map, then maybe it can be used to navigate those tunnels. Here's another interesting thing Jade said when he believed it was all just a giant escape room.
Thinking maybe there's a clue in each one of the buildings? Am I getting warmer?
Maybe there's a clue in each of the buildings. We know that the buildings sit above the tunnels, so maybe there really are clues hidden beneath them. If people start digging in their basements, they might find answers. Maybe this is why the man in yellow intervened, because if people followed Tabitha's lead, they would uncover a major clue. Taking all of this into account, the lonely dragon being Tian Chen, and the symbol being a map, it strongly suggests that Jade is the Cromenockle. Based on everything we've seen so far, it fits perfectly. Jade is one of the original parents and has a deep connection to this place, so it would make sense for him to be the one who frees the children. I also have another theory. that only the parents' reincarnations can pass through the faraway tree and reach the lighthouse. The only thing that kept bothering me was the fact that the Cromenockle was a girl. The show goes out of its way to point that out. I couldn't find the exact episode when it happens. Maybe you can help me in the comments. But Julie specifically says that the Cromenockle is a she. If this detail wasn't important, the show wouldn't dedicate screen time to correcting it, especially by emphasizing that it's a she and not a he. But here's the interesting part. If Season 1 strongly reinforces that the Cromenockle is a girl, the next 2 seasons seem a bit more flexible, and the gender shifts to he. To me, this is proof that the story is changing, and the story needs to change for our heroes to win. If everything in From is a story and Ethan says, "You cannot change a story once it's been told," then that would mean every cycle is doomed to fail and the children would never be saved. But if the story is changing, then we could be heading toward a different outcome, one where the children are finally freed. It's also worth mentioning that Jade's character wasn't originally supposed to exist. In the original script, Jade was a 17-year-old Chinese girl, but the producers decided to rewrite the character into who we have now. The last piece of evidence that might support the idea that Jade is the Cromenockle is a concept introduced in Episode 3. The idea that there are 2 Cromenockles. At first, the scene feels like Jim and Tabitha are just trying to comfort Ethan, but what if it's more than that? In that scene, they say, "There's going to be 2 Cromenockles for you. 2 Cromenockles for the cave. 2 Cromenockles for you." If we put everything together, this line might actually be proof that Jade is one of the Cromenockles, especially the one who goes into the caves. Let me know what you think about this theory, or if you've noticed anything else that could support the idea that Jade is the Cromenockle. Let me know what you think. Am I reaching, or does this actually make sense? And if you caught anything I missed, drop it in the comments. I read everything.